Hello, and welcome to the Physical Therapy Owners Club podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Shields, and longtime frequent flyer Eric Miller of Econologics is our guest today. Eric, how are you doing, man?
Long time frequent flyer. That's a good one right there, isn't it? This is
Right.
like our fifth one, isn't it?
Oh, at least.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we tried to do this as a Facebook Live event and technical difficulties, Zoom, my inabilities, whatever you want to call it. We're going to post this to the podcast and post it on the Facebook group as well. But thanks for bearing with me and thanks for joining me, man.
It's always a pleasure. What are we talking about today?
Dude, we're talking about cash flow. Money, 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 money.
Money, 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 money. All right. That's good.
I won't sing anymore, I promise. Yeah, we want to talk about cash. We want to talk about how we can increase cash flow in our PT clinics. For PT owners, and I'm going to give you a minute to talk about where you're coming from, just so people know
Yeah.
if they haven't heard from you before, why you can talk into this subject. But I think as PT owners, we think we're limited to the cash flows that we simply see with the patients that are coming through and don't know how to necessarily increase that per se. So we want to talk about what we can do to fill up our buckets a little bit more, increase that profit margin and some of the cushions that we have in our clinics. But before we get
Yeah.
into it, man, let's share with the group really quickly about you where you're coming from.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm a financial advisor by trade, right? So I actually learned how to be a financial advisor over the years. But it was I don't know how many years ago it was. It was probably 10 years ago, though. I had the first realization that if I was going to help practice owners in particular become better in their personal finances, then I had to understand a little bit about how their practice worked. Because let's face it, that is the main generator of wealth for most practice owners for their household. Most of them are by and large very dependent upon the cash flow of their business for their household financial survival.
Yeah.
So I had to learn if I was gonna teach people how to be better with money, and I wanted them to have I wanted them to have more income sources and less debt and pay less in taxes and all the things that they want. I had to know where it was coming from and show them how to improve um, the income producing ability from that source.
Yeah.
So that's really where our whole niche of working with private practice owners, specifically physical therapists, came from.
Yeah, and you guys that is your thing. Your whole business model is around helping private practice owners
That's it.
in physical therapy to become more financially viable and successful. Right?
Yeah, make your business more valuable and then of course make sure that translates into personal financial success.
Exactly.
Because again, so many practice owners, you can have a great big giant practice that's producing a lot of money, but if it's not translating to the benefit of the household, you know, what's the
It's not
point?
serving its purpose.
That's right.
Right. Cool. Sweet. So, talking about increasing cash flow, where do you want to start?
Well, I mean, we can talk about I think the number one thing to increasing cash flow, and it all starts with having the correct numbers. So many times you hear people like, my cash flow's low, or my cash flow is low, or it's not where it needs to be. I'm like, where does it need to be?
Yeah.
And right. So I think, and I've said this before, you really got to make sure you understand the two golden rules of income and expenses, two golden rules. And again, those golden rules are your business. Just face it. It's going to try to spend everything that it makes and then some. All right. It don't fight that. It will. But it'll also make what it needs to make to be able to function and survive. So as long as you're operating, so there's a natural demand for money. Like if you want money, Nathan, or if your practice needed money, or if you needed to pay a bill, like if your kid needed a surgery that was going to cost X amount of dollars, you would do whatever you needed to get that money together and pay it, right? You would. Why? Because there's a demand for that money. So it's the same thing in a business. You have to have like this almost obsession with, I need this much money for us to be able to be solvent, to be expanding, to be profitable, so I can have business reserves, so I can pay off my debt, so I can pay myself as an owner. And it really comes down to making sure you know exactly what that number is. And by and large, whenever I've talked with private practice owners, the first question I've asked, what is your make break number? And are you including all of your profits in that number?
Mm,
And 9 out of 10 of them said, no, I wasn't. So you're
yeah.
operating on the wrong number.
Yeah.
So once you get that number, at least you know what your target is.
Yeah.
And
The
that's where you start. That's the first thing, is like, have the right target.
I can really think back to my experience that things started changing in my business when I did a few things. But one of those fundamental things was sitting down with my CPA monthly. And I told him, I said, you need to teach me how to read a profit and loss statement and a
Yeah.
balance sheet. Show me. And this is honestly, this is like 10 plus years into ownership, right? Show me my cash flow, all that stuff. And help me really figure out what my break even number is. And then I could translate that into visits per month.
Right.
And I just knew that baseline standard for every clinic after that going forward, because I did that on a routine basis. I knew my numbers. But the one thing that I know you guys push really hard for that I didn't do, and I wish I had, and I would have much more money in the bank if I did, was to set aside that 10% of gross revenues to
Yeah.
owners as an expense line. And that just one thing that I know you didn't cover right there, but part of knowing your numbers is putting that expense line in there.
Yeah, I think you have to include that. Just remember, you have 3 roles in your business. You have your practitioner role, your executive role, and then your owner role.
Mm-hmm.
And most private practice physical therapists, they pay themselves a salary through W-2 wage. They do that. You may take, some distributions out of the business, at certain times. Maybe you call that your executive compensation.
Yeah.
But most people don't compensate themselves as owners, and you
Mm-hmm.
need to, because it's vital that you do that. Number one, it increases the demand for more money in the
Mm-hmm.
practice, and then it also handles the financial issues at your household. Because
Exactly.
if you're doing $1 million or $2 million or $3 million in revenue, 10% is an awful lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And it builds up, and then of course you use that to create other income sources. But
Yeah.
just remember that to factor in your payments to each other when you're coming up with that make break number.
Yeah. That's number one. Know your numbers.
Know your numbers. That'd be number one.
Yeah.
So number two, like I would, if you're having difficulties with cash flow, or you feel like it could be better and it's just not, so you have to inspect your finance lines.
Mm.
Okay. So, in your organization, in a PT organization, remember I work with other types of practice owners, but in a PT organization, obviously it relies heavily on collections and
Yes.
reimbursements, right? And who's doing that? It's not an automatic, right?
Yep.
There's
Yep.
people
There
that
are
are
people
doing that,
involved.
right?
Yep.
That are responsible for your finance. So, and whether you like it or not, their emotional or their viewpoint or their attitude towards money does have something to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I'm sure you've met those people that if you gave them money, it would be out the door the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so when you're looking at like the people that are responsible for your collections, that are responsible for your billing, you got to have someone that has a bulldog mentality,
That's true.
that has a bulldog mentality. I've seen so many PTs have so much difficulties wasting money that was never billed that should have. I mean, you've heard the stories. I mean, I had one guy
Yes.
said, yeah, I found $20,000 of unreimbursed, treatment is sitting in a desk drawer.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's
Exactly.
stuff like that. So if you're having difficulties with cash flow, you got to go inspect that line. Like
Mm-hmm.
what's going on here? Are there good systems in place? Do we need to create more? Or is there, I mean, that's where your eyes should be, especially on your finance lines.
I think
And
so much money. And in talking to Will Humphreys, my business partner and now owner of in the black billing company for physical therapists
That's a
is
great, that's a
so,
great name, by the way. Tell him that's
right?
a great name. Yeah.
um,
I like
he consistently loses money at the front desk because those people at the front desk are scared to ask for the copay.
it.
And they can't, and like you said, the bulldog mentality has to be there. My best front desk people and my best billers were the people that said that we're not emotional about it at all. It was simply, this is the transaction that needs to take place. This is the agreement that you made with your insurance company, not with
Correct.
us regarding your copay. Your insurance plan says blank is owed when you come to physical therapy. So, hey, I need to collect that such $20 copay today. Hey, I
Yeah.
need to collect $100 to go towards your deductible today. How would you like to pay? Or the best ones, hey, why don't we just get your credit card on file so we don't have to go through this each time? You don't have to remember it, and we'll just have it on file, and I'll give you the receipt as you're walking out the door.
That,
Right?
that was the other thing I was going to say. You got to make it super simple for people to pay
Super
you,
simple.
right?
Yeah.
For people to pay you, make it super, super simple.
Yeah. Yeah. And that can be tough for owners as well, because number one, we don't, we might own the company, but that doesn't necessarily mean we know how to manage the front desk personnel. I mean, we could run it ourselves, but we don't know how to manage somebody per se. And the same thing can be said for billing people, even if we have billing in-house, or if we've
Hmm.
outsourced that, we don't know how to hold them accountable. Right. And so that's where you can look at previous podcast episodes. You can talk to my business partner, Will Humphreys, about how to hold your billing people accountable, because you need to know your numbers on the billing side as well, and not rely on them saying, here are the reports, we're doing a great job. Hopefully your bank account's still going in the right direction. I mean, really, as physical therapists, we don't know how to manage that. And we have the ability to do so. You just have to talk
Yeah.
to the right people. Like I said, I
And
know I've done a podcast on it.
have the right ratios, have the right numbers of what those collection ratios should be, all
Yeah.
those things. I mean,
Yeah.
all those things that are going to result in money obviously need to be, addressed and have a stat on them so you can inspect that.
Definitely.
But I would say though, you definitely have to make, from having someone, and I think we've all had these kinds of people in our companies at some point in time, the kind that are doing pretty well for a period of time, and then they have this massive they have massive problems, and then they just kind of yo-yo, right?
Yeah.
And they just go up and they go down, they go up and they go
Mhm.
down. Okay, you find another place in the organization for that person other than the finance lines. All right, have them
Don't
do
let them touch your
something
money.
completely else. Do not give them anywhere near the money lines, because the result is awful when that happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's when I turned a blind eye and just kind of trusted people to get the job done, is where a lot of money got pilfered away.
Yeah.
Right. I just assumed things were happening, but I wasn't inspecting it. I didn't have my pulse on it. I just assumed things were happening, and they weren't, and money got taken away from my clinic.
It will spread everywhere if it's not channeled correctly. That is for
Yeah.
sure.
And I remember in my consulting that, if there's what you could, like, take your hands off of almost every position in your company, but CFO is the one that you rarely step away from, if at
Just want to
all.
make sure that you're getting very heavy and accurate reports in that area constantly. So
Constantly.
I think that's an area. I mean, there's some other areas that you can maybe, not have as much attention on, especially if the results are good. But in that area, I would, because look, I think going forward here, that is an area that's a little bit more difficult in the physical therapy office, because it's not like there's a lot of cash. That's just the transaction wise that are
Mm-hmm.
that are changing hands. But look, employee theft is a big deal, for small companies, and it's becoming more and more rampant that we're seeing that,
Yeah.
where embezzlements are occurring.
Mm-hmm.
And look, criminals can get very creative when it comes to this. So that's why you just have to make sure you have your attention on this area.
Yeah. And so much of it can just be that simple transaction at the front desk, ever that 20,
Yeah,
25, 10, $50 here and there over time just adds up.
it's a simple, simple thing.
Simple things.
All right, I have four more. You want to keep going?
Of course, dude.
Yes. All right, here's a good one. I think that everyone can do. See, yeah, these are all things everyone can do.
Yeah.
Like all these things we're going over, like, I mean, this, like, I know it seems sometimes like there's outside forces, but honestly, when you start looking at it, it's always an inside job.
Yeah.
There's always things you can do inside of your
Yeah.
practice.
We might not necessarily be breaking new ground here,
Nah, maybe not.
huh? Just put more attention on these things.
Yes. Increasing the speed in which everyone does their jobs.
Hmm.
All right. So time gets in the way a lot of production.
Hmm.
And I will tell you that it's definitely in what I've seen, especially in practices that have a lot of patients coming in the door. Uh, you need to work really speed of service,
Hmm.
speed of
There
service.
you go.
Okay. Speed, speed, speed. Okay. So wherever you can look in your organization and say, where can I increase the speed of this service getting done? I want to do.
Mm.
I don't think that takes away from this. And even when you're doing, the therapy, it doesn't take away from the care. Cause I'll tell you, some of the best practitioners I've seen work really, really fast.
Yeah.
Okay. But not just so much in the healthcare areas, but just any other areas of your organization where things need to get done very, very quickly. And when you
Hmm.
start doing that, you take time out of the equation and you will see income go up by doing that. And it's kind of one of those things you're like, I didn't, what does speed have to do with it? But just think about it. Like when you complete something, it's done, right? And
Hmm.
now it opens you to do more and more things.
Hmm.
So I think if you can really get people to increase the speed in which they get their products, you'll see your income go up quite a bit.
Well, and I think a lot of that depends on the clarity that they have regarding their position, right?
Sure.
So if they know that their main product is to get patients in the door, well, then they're probably going to focus on getting patients in the door. And if you add the elements of time to it, like we not only get patients in the door, we get the patients in the door within 24 hours of receiving the first phone call or fax or however we
Perfect.
receive
That's what I'm
referrals,
talking about. That's
right? We're not
fast
going to, yeah,
service,
we're not
right?
going to sit on it for a week and then call them and see if they
Mm-mm.
call us. No, our job is to get them in, not only just get them in, but get them in now. And if they're going to reschedule, they're not going to, we're going to push for a reschedule later this afternoon versus 2 days away.
Exactly.
Get them in, get them in, get them in.
Anything, any area in your business, when it's scheduling, collecting money, whatever it would be, how can I increase the speed of this? Right?
Sure.
How can I get that done faster?
Well,
That's where
in,
I think you'll see the production increase because of that.
yeah. And in the billing sense, I know Will has recommended when you're looking at your AR aging report, you want that aging report to be front loaded with cash. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the money that you're expecting to see should be within that first 0 to 60 day accounts receivable aging time frame, and only maybe 5% in the 60 to 90, 5% 90 to 20, maybe 10% in the 90 and above, because you have workers' comp or liens that are out there that take longer naturally. But your insurance stuff should all be front loaded up into that 0 to 60 day time frame if you're really doing things well on a collections basis.
Absolutely. It is. I think it's a missing element that a lot of people don't think about. But if they just looked at their organization and they found out ways where this is just taking too long, it doesn't need to take this long. We
Mm-hmm.
can increase the delivery of this. They would find that it would have a dramatic impact on their cash flow.
And not to belabor the point, but I know there's studies out there that if you don't collect that copay at the time of service, and they walk out the door, like the percentage that you receive on that dollar
Mm-hmm.
immediately goes down to like 65 cents on the dollar. And then if it goes out 30 to 60 days, it gets down to 50%, and 25 cents of every dollar that's out there is actually going to get collected if it's not collected as soon as possible.
Yeah, again, when time enters the equation, it just stops. It just slows things down when you get, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it just does, so you just want to make sure you try to do everything as instantaneous as possible.
Right,
I'm
right.
lazy by nature, man. I mean, I like to like just there's certain things I get lazy about, but there's certain things I know I just have to do it now. If I
Mm-hmm.
don't do it now, then it'll just cost me down the line.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, number 4. This one's kind of like off the wall. I got some off the wall ones here. But
Okay.
I will tell you this though, I've seen this happen. You ever walked into a place that was full of clutter, like a facility that's full of clutter, and there's just it's not very kept, and it looks like crap. Okay,
Magazines all over the place and
yeah. Do you
lots of
think
stuff on the walls.
their cash flow is good or bad in an office like that?
You'd question it, huh?
It,
Considering their lack of organization.
it's bad.
Yeah,
So make sure everything is very, very neat and orderly. Okay. Get rid of clutter, things that you don't need, things that you don't use. Make sure that the appearance of the people is nice. I know a lot of people wear, some kind of a, not necessarily a uniform, but they have the name of the company, or
sure.
it makes a difference when people see that. Okay. And the cleanliness of the place. I mean, right, that really matters right now to people,
That's
as
true.
far as the how safe the place, how safe people feel when they're at that particular practice.
Right.
So definitely make sure that the facility is clean and not cluttery. Nobody likes
Yeah.
clutter.
Interesting. You can see that definitely in not just in the front desk area. I think that's where we initially go to when we think about clutter in
Yep.
a healthcare setting, but in a PT setting, also in your gym, making sure you have plenty of space between tables, especially during this time, like you said. But anytime that you can uh, declutter the
Yes.
area and make it look less busy, I kind of think lends toward our mutual friend Sean Kirk's theory that if you want to increase the number of patients in your clinic, just add more tables,
There you go.
right? So if you add more treatment tables, then it seems like there's a space for that person to be. The last thing you want is for the patient to come out of a treatment room or come from the front desk, or front desk, to start their visit, and there's no place for them to lay down on the table and get the treatment that they need, right? And it's like, when you go to church, the last thing you want is to not have a soft seat.
No, no,
Right?
you want to go in there and you want to feel comfortable and you want to feel like
Yeah.
this place is clean and I can sit down and I'm not going to feel dirty. So it does make a
Yeah.
difference. And like when you've ever went to a restaurant or someplace and you're like, yeah, it was nice, it was a good environment, everything was, presentable. I mean, you want to go back
Yeah.
and you pay. So it's same thing with your practice. Make it spick and span and aesthetic.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I think if you do that and just get rid of a lot of the stuff, open up new space so you can deliver more services, it's going to
Yeah.
improve your cash flow.
Yeah. And I think one thing to consider also, and I didn't think about this until after I opened up my first clinic, but I used an interior designer to design some of the front waiting room and treatment rooms.
Hmm.
And I got a lot of compliments on that. And I didn't think much of it until I had an experienced physical therapy owner come by my practice one time. He's like, "Oh, smart move on the design stuff." Because who makes the decisions in healthcare?
Yeah,
It's the moms, right? The
it's
moms are
true.
making the decisions for their parents, for their kids, for their spouses. And so if you can, make it nice and presentable for the females, then more than likely you're going to gain their trust.
No doubt. Did you take credit for that when he said that? You're like, oh yeah, I meant to do that the whole time, right?
Yeah, I was thinking so far ahead. Yes, that's me as a new owner thinking
you're
thought it all
like,
through.
yeah, I meant to do that. No
Yeah, I
big
meant to
deal.
do that. Yeah, that's right.
All right, number five. Uh, okay, look, um, you got to get people. How do I say this? Make sure you don't have people that should be out there doing your marketing, trying to get you more referrals. Don't stick them in the organization with stuff that is going to clutter what they're supposed to be doing.
Mm,
So you want to make sure that the people that are supposed to do that function, your promotion, your marketing, make sure that they are allowed to do that.
yeah,
Okay.
talk into that a little bit more.
Well, I think a lot of times, and maybe you felt like this in an organization, it's hard to expand an organization if you're doing all the functions, right?
Mm,
Especially when you first start. Well, you want to make sure that, you have marketing people. I don't know if you have, who else in like a PT organization is
the
you definitely have a marketing.
technicians
Yeah.
or front desk person. Yeah.
whatever those people are internal, right? They're there to
Yeah.
deliver, but who's going out there and doing the promotion and the marketing and talking to the doctors and trying to get referrals and trying to manage the social media and all that, right? Don't bog them down with too much, other stuff that's going to not
Okay.
allow them to do their job, which is going out
Yeah.
there and trying to find new patients.
Yeah.
Okay. So that would just be one of and that also goes for the CEO, right?
Hmm.
Don't bog the CEO down with things that are going to not allow them to strategize and make sure that things are getting
Yeah.
done in the organization. Okay, they're getting drawn back down in the organization instead
Yeah.
of being able to look out. How do I expand? I want to buy this new practice. You keep that person outward, right?
Hmm.
Let them be them.
Yeah.
And
The couple of things come to mind because recently in my mastermind group, one of my clients, he talked about this because he's growing, he's expanding, he's hitting some great numbers, and what he recognized on the marketing side that he was doing all the marketing, going out and visiting the doctors, and he'd make the marketing pushes and all that, especially when the holidays came around and stuff like that. But recognized that, well, that means he's only getting out like maybe once a week, twice a week for a few hours at a time. And by actually hiring someone part-time to solely focus on marketing, that marketing strategy just went crazy and their numbers increased because now there's someone who is consistently hitting the doctors, and it's not dependent upon the owner who's got plenty of other things to think about and do
right.
to get out and market when he has time. And that happened to me as well. As I hated marketing to begin with, and so of course I was happy when I found a physical therapy assistant that actually wanted to do the marketing,
Hmm.
and blocking out time in her schedule to actually go out and market on a routine basis. Number one, I was happy because I didn't have to do that crap. And number two, someone was excited and doing it routinely instead of me, and not just when I had time. Because I think as owners, a lot of times, numbers go up, and so we don't have marketing time to get out and visit. And and then inherently the numbers go down. And
Yeah.
so, oh, now it's time to market again. And so we go out and marketing, and we just ride that roller coaster. Whereas if there was some consistency to our marketing efforts with someone who is dedicated to marketing,
That's right.
then you wouldn't have to worry about that so much, and you just have a consistent increase.
Yeah. And to that person's point you just said, that CEO that hired that person part-time, I wonder how much that increased their cash flow by just having that person do
Oh,
that. I mean,
totally,
it was
totally.
just a huge number.
Yeah, I mean the hit to their expense line was simply the part-time salary of someone who's going out and doing marketing,
Yeah,
whereas all their other expenses are staying same. So that essentially goes right down to the bottom line until they have to hire the next person.
exactly.
Mm.
Okay, I got one more.
Yeah.
All right. I think when's the last time, I'm not asking you this kind of, when is the last time you've looked at all of your income sources inside of your business?
Mm.
Okay. And really made sure that you are focusing your marketing efforts or whatever your efforts are on those that are providing not only the highest profit margin, but have the highest demand and the easiest to deliver.
Hmm.
So obviously, if you're going to form a business and you have a product or a service, you want it to be profitable. You want a lot of people to want it, and it should be fairly easy to deliver that service optimally.
Sure.
Right. So, in a PT practice, I mean, what are some of the income sources that you have? Well, you have reimbursed patient care.
Mm-hmm.
There's non-reimbursed patient care. You have what, supplements, performance
You might have a
screenings,
cash pay line. You
cash
might,
pay line.
and even
Yeah.
within reimbursements, there could be commercial payers versus workers' comp versus motor vehicle accident / lien
Yes.
patients. Yeah, there could be different avenues that way.
So I would break all those down and find out. And we actually have an exercise that I can make available that people can download,
Oh, cool.
that would actually allow them to look at their income sources, all their different services that they're providing,
Mm-hmm.
and making sure that they are, they're pushing or marketing those services that have, that provide a reasonably good profit margin, are in good demand, and are fairly easy to deliver, because that's
Mm-hmm.
what you would want to push. And if you're not pushing those, then that can help increase your cash flow by finding some of those things that would be able to do those things. So I would just look at, you always want to look at your services, and where can you expand, and what can I add? And are there some things that I can introduce that I've always wanted to, but I haven't, but that could really increase my bottom line. I think, with, adding, with what HODs, right? Adding
Mm-hmm.
services like that. I mean, you can
Yep.
really, really increase your profit margin by doing, those things. So
Diagnostics.
diagnostics, exactly
Yeah.
right. So
Yeah.
that is what I would do. Just inspect and just review my income sources, and
Yeah.
really market those that are going to give me those three things.
I know it's really helpful for some of the clinicians here in Alaska, at least, to have massage therapists on staff,
I
because
believe it.
there are insurance companies that will reimburse patients for massage therapy as long as it's directed by a healthcare professional. And so they'll have massage therapy on site, and that adds to the benefit. And it's just another cash flow that's pretty
Yeah.
easy to implement. You don't have to have any additional equipment necessarily. You just have to give them space to do it.
It's really not that hard. You just have to look at it and say, what would it take to get this thing going right now, and just
Mm-hmm.
execute it and do it. So,
Yeah,
but that's a pretty good list right there.
definitely.
And I think if people did those things, it certainly wouldn't hurt them.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows you that it's the little things, right? It's kind of like that 1%, you can look across an organization. If I could just prove every area of my organization, just 1 or 2%,
Yeah.
that'll have a big impact,
Mm-hmm.
and the organization somewhere. And I think that's just going through these things of what you can do. It may not seem like much, and I don't think any one of these is going to change your life right away,
Mm-hmm.
but a combination of doing all these things,
Mm-hmm.
I can't help but think that would improve your cash flow tremendously over time.
Well, I remember you did a presentation once about what to do when someone's in a cash flow crunch,
Yeah.
right? And they're having issues and they're bleeding money, right? And one of the things that I recall and always stuck with me is the focus on your purpose again, and make
Oh,
sure
yeah.
the employees are focused on that purpose again. Because as you start pushing some of these, they might, some resistance might come up, like, well, you're all about the numbers, or you're all about the money, and da 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 da. And it's, if your purpose hasn't been solidified, well, number one, if it hasn't been clarified and it hasn't been solidified amongst the team, then it's going to look like that. But when you can say, no, our purpose is to serve people, right? Here's our purpose, blank. It's to serve, do some kind of service, help empower, get people out of pain, you name it. But if we can do it faster, right? And if we can see more people, that means we're doing a better job and having a greater impact on our community. And so tying some of that stuff back to the purpose really helps people look past the superficial complaint of, oh, you're just about the numbers, or you're just about the money.
Hey, you are a genius,
Yeah.
because that's the number one thing to help improve your cash flow. That
Focus
is.
on your purpose.
It is, because everything you just said, that was absolutely correct. Because all these other mechanical things you can do in an
Mm-hmm.
organization,
Mm-hmm.
right? You can look at the numbers, you can expect your finance lines, you can increase speed of service and clean the place up and all these other things, right? But if you get everybody motivated, coordinated, and really, really behind you and the purpose of the organization, like as a unit, as a team, I think that'll show more fruits of labor than anything else. That will show
Mm-hmm.
more rewards and results than anything else. I
Yeah,
think if you could really do that, that was
that ret-
beautiful.
that
I'm
return on
glad you
investment.
remembered that.
Well, you're the one that said it. I just
I
remembered that you
forgot
said
I was like going through this thing. I'm like, oh crap, I probably should have said that first.
it. Well, you brought it up in times of
Yeah,
cash flow crunches, right? And we were talking
that's
about
true.
just, people might go in, but if you really want to get a huge return on your investment, is just spend the time and energy to focus, number one, on clarifying your purpose. Make sure it's something that's somewhat inspirational and gets people out of bed to work for you. But
Yeah.
that generates a culture, and now this culture wants to see itself improve and grow and greater expand our purpose to affect more people. Well, that's when you start seeing some serious cash flow changes for the positive, and an increase to the net value of the company. is when
Yes.
people are looking for opportunities to organize, to increase the speed, and to know their numbers as it pertains to how they fit in the company. It all just kind of works together and starts creating a better organization.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. That's cool. Well, thanks for joining me today, man. If people wanted to
Brother,
get in touch with Eric Miller of Econologics, how do they do that?
so they simply go to www.econologics.com, and you will see there when you get to the homepage, it'll say who we serve. You can go to physical therapists because you'll be right there, and we have financial success guides and plenty of downloads that you can utilize
Mhm.
to help you on your journey and assessments and all kinds of things. So
And if they wanted to inspect their income streams, like you mentioned in number 6, is that where they'd find that as well? Is that readily available on the website?
I do believe that there is an exercise on there. If it's not, I can probably either figure out a way to, we can put it on there, or they can just call me. They can just email me directly.
Okay.
I can just, if it's okay to give my email address on here.
Yeah, feel free.
Yeah, just go to Eric@econologics.com.
Okay.
Eric@econologics.com. Simple.
ERIC.
ERIC.
Gotcha. Cool, man. Well, thanks for sharing today. It was awesome. It's all about the money, all about the Benjamins.
Yeah, brother, it's right here. I put them away already.
Yeah, don't let those float around.
No, no, no.
Cool,
All
man.
right, man. Good seeing you.
Thanks for your time, man.
Yep. Bye.